All right. Okay. Raise your hand if you feel like you did not get enough sleep last night. As you can see, pretty much everyone in the class could use some more sleep. As someone who's pretty tired constantly, myself, I decided to do some research on sleep and some related topics. Today I want to share some theories with you that talk about why we sleep, what happens in the short and long term without sleep, and some tips on how to get better sleep. So first I'm going to explain some of the theories about why we sleep. In an article published in 2008 by Emmanuel Mignot, explains three theories that talk about why we sleep. The first one is that sleep acts as a form of energy conservation. So basically, this means that during the day we have peak performance hours, in which they showed through a study in animals that shows how they catch prey better at certain hours of the day. And basically it says that sleep is used to conserve the energy that we don't use in the non-peak hours. Also it says that that sleep can be used to facilitate learning and memory. So basically we learn during the day, and this is an unsustainable process as we are awake for a prolonged amount of time. And so when we are asleep, we require less energy. And so our brain can use sleep for storage in a method to create memories. The third theory is that sleep restores key cellular processes. So when you're awake, macromolecules like protein synthesis and cholesterol are used up quite a bit. And so this theory states that sleep restores the synthesis of these macromolecules that are important to our daily health. Next, I'm going to explain some of the effects of the short and long-term effects of sleep deprivation. So one study shows that sleep apnea actually increases the risk for panic disorders. And sleep apnea is defined as, in this article published by Vincent E. Fong, it's defined as the inability for someone to sleep for a decent amount of time due to the fact that they have clogged upper airways in their respiratory tract. And this prevents them from getting REM sleep and eventually prevents them from getting the proper REM sleep and just deprives them of sleep, basically. So in this study, there were 8,700 sleep apnea patients and 35,000 control patients. And of the ones who did not suffer from sleep apnea, only 0.42% developed a panic disorder, whereas the ones who did suffer from sleep apnea, they had a 2.17% of them did develop a panic disorder. So this means that if you did suffer from sleep apnea, you're 5 times more likely to experience or develop some type of panic disorder. Secondly, REM sleep, more specifically, is very important. A study published in 2012 by Ramachandra University in India talked about the depriving rats of REM sleep and how this led to a physiological stressor, which basically it kind of damaged their proteins and played a major role in the development of diabetes in these rats. Another study states that sleep deprivation is actually linked to higher bicycle accidents and motor vehicle accidents, especially in Korean adolescents, because they typically only get 5 to 6.5 hours of sleep, whereas the standard amount of sleep for adolescents is 8 hours. And so this just kind of, again, emphasizes how little sleep can impair your motor ability. And then another short-term sleep deprivation effect that's kind of related to the last one deals with reaction time. And this was an article published by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration titled "Drowsy Driving and Automobile Crashes." It basically says that with less sleep, you have slower reaction time and reduced vigilance and deficits in info processing. And so this is a graph that they put out that basically they gave subjects event marker every 4 seconds for 10 minutes total, and they took the inverse value, and which would be reduced over time as they took a longer time to react. And so this was the slope for the people who were sleep deprived. And obviously, it's steeper than the normal one. Lastly, I want to leave you with some tips for how to get better sleep. In an article titled Top Tips for Better Sleep by Claire Scullin, she gave 3 tips. The first one being that you shouldn't use electronics 40 minutes prior to your bedtime, because in another article, in Translational Issues in Psychological Science, it stated that 12 to 14-year-old boys who gamed for 60 minutes prior to going to bed took a longer time to fall asleep and had a lighter sleep overall than those who did not game or use electronics before going to bed. And this is because screens emit bright light, like LED screens emit the bright light that decreases melatonin production, which is basically a hormone that helps you fall asleep at night. The second tip was to keep a steady sleep schedule, so basically just try to sleep and wake up at the same time every day. This will regulate your internal clock and promote the natural drive for sleep. And you also want to try and limit your naps to under 20 minutes in order to keep a steady schedule also. And third tip was to keep a healthy lifestyle. Basically try not to drink caffeine after 2 p.m. and eliminate it completely if you can. Also, you want to exercise in the day or early evening, and also limit alcohol consumption before bed, because this totally messes with your sleep schedule. And speaking of alcohol, these 2 graphs were published on Inc.com, and basically they just show on the x-axis of this one is the blood alcohol content, and this one is hours of wakefulness, and they both compare on the y-axis to human like relative performance on the type of scale that they did. And it basically, if you can see, it says that with 20 hours of not sleeping, you act the same as you would with the 0.9 blood alcohol content level. So that's pretty interesting. Maybe if you don't want to drink and you want to feel drunk, you can just not sleep for a while. Yeah, so basically, it's evident that sleep is important, and I hope that you took away some good tips on how to get better sleep, and I hope that the next time you choose between another episode of Netflix and sleep, you choose sleep.